Hello, I'm Layla, in case you don't know, even though my name is on the channel, just in case you don't know, my name is Layla. So, it's almost nighttime here. I don't know if you can tell or not, but anyway. So I came outside to feed our dog Lewis. He's the bigger dog that we have. We have 3 that are Milo, George, and Lewis. So, Lewis is a pretty big dog. Not that big, but he's half lab and half husky. So this afternoon we decided to go to the park because we have not been there in months. Lewis gets to run around the yard, not often, and not really run around freely. He's on a leash, so basically I guess he doesn't get to run around. But that's because our yard is not fenced in, and people, we live in the county, they're not going to stop for a dog. They will run them over and just keep going. Unless it's a puppy, they might run over the puppy or they might just take the puppy. Anyway, sorry if I'm talking fast. So anyway, I went outside to feed Lewis. Today, he made me remember everything that happened today. Even though this happened well over 10 hours ago, it still bothered me. It still bothers me. So, my husband, myself, and our dog, we went to the dog park, Mason Park. So, before I tell you this, there was 2 bodies found in Mason Park, and the park actually was not that packed, but there was a few cars there. Mason Park, they have not rebuilt it, and so there's not much for kids to play on except for the plastic playground. The wooden playground, they pretty much tore that down. Long story short, well, not long story short, I don't know why I said that. My Twitter was always insanely long. So anyway, we go to the park and, well, let me tell you about the bodies. So they found one man who's been there for over a week. At first they tried to say he's been there for a couple of days, and then the very next day after finding him, they found another body. So of course we think, well, no one's going to be at the park except for people who are like either into that stuff or they see the opportunity of it being quiet, whatever the case may or may not be. We actually forgot about the whole murders that happened, because murders happen here pretty often. Even, I was about to say that the neighborhood's not bad by any means, but then I just said murders happen here pretty often. Anyway, so we go to the park, and we're throwing around Lewis's duck toy. We're having a great time. I'm taking pictures of Lewis, taking pictures of my husband with our dog. And then so there was kids that we saw at the park before we drove up. The dog park is a good ways away from them. Lewis does not bite that we know of, but we only had Lewis a couple months. There's that bullcrap. He will bark at strangers as someone's riding their bike or walking past the house. He will bark at them or he will growl until they're out of his sight. Same thing with strange dogs. Not all dogs, just certain dogs and pretty much people. So as responsible owners, we're training him to do better, and also we're training him in general. But as responsible owners, we're training him to do better, and as responsible owners, if someone that's a stranger asks to pet them, especially children, we say, oh no, like he bites. Because we don't want him to actually bite someone and something happens to them and then something happens to our dog, but mainly them. So these 2 little boys, they come up to us, not that close, but they come up to us as we're leaving the park. You gotta cross this little bridge that's not that far to get to our truck. We usually park right in front of the dog park, but we didn't, because we didn't know exactly where the crime scene was. We didn't look into it, but we should have. That way we know not to like get in their way and that kind of stuff. I hate that stuff. My husband and Lewis did like walk around for a little while just to like see everything. They're nosy, which I get it. And then we all 3 went to the dog park. I did not go walk around to go see what they was doing, because he wanted to see if Lewis would just do stuff by himself. My storage got full, so the video cut. So as I was saying, so he wanted to see if Lewis would sniff anything while an audience wasn't there, because if there's more than one person with him, Lewis is not going to do anything. Anywho, so my husband tells them, because they asked if they could, they asked if he bites, because they wanted to pet him. So he says, yes, sorry, he bites. And then he repeated himself because they asked again. They didn't hear him. And so he didn't say it in a rude way by any means. He was just letting them know because they are children. And then so as they walk in front of me, because I just felt something was off. And then so they walk in front of me. And then Lewis kept watching one of the kids. And so that's mainly why I decided to stay behind them. And then so as my husband's walking ahead, one of the little boys, when he's a good ways away, he starts yelling, "That's such an ugly effing dog," and that is elf, and all this sort of stuff, which, that's not going to bother me. I've been overweight pretty much my entire life. Not forever, but my entire life. You're not going to hurt my feelings for calling me fat. But this kid was probably between like 8 and 10 and talking like this. And then so my husband carries a gun on him, so the gun was like visible. So then the boy, he screams. This is when my husband actually hears him, because at this point we already put Lewis in the truck. And so the little boy screams that he is going to take the pistol from him and starts calling him the B word and all sort of stuff. And then so I have to remind my husband, he's a child, just don't worry about it. And the reason I have to remind him he's a child is because these city kids are the worst of the worst where we live. Even if they're 5 years old, they're bad. And then so the reason I have to remind him that he's a child, because with my husband is going to go straight to their house. He's going to explain to their parents what happened, or he's going to call the police, or he's going to pull his belt off and he's going to whoop a kid. And then, of course, like, I've never seen him whoop a kid, ever, but I'm saying, like, that's probably how it would go. And this child ends up walking to his house, and so then I'm like, why in the world would you talk like that to complete strangers and then walk to your house? And there was an older girl with them that could be their sister or their mom, I don't know. People, my videos keep getting cut because of storage, but long story short, people around here there's a 13-year-old girl who had twins not too long ago, a few years ago. But anyway, so at the park, this kid is basically cussing us out, and we ignore him because he's a child. But long story short, our day just got ruined because this kid is out of control. And people continue to let their children be out of control. You don't have to beat your kid by any means. You don't have to whoop your kid by any means. But it's like, if you cannot control your child, and when I say control, I don't mean like, oh, make them obey or something like that. I mean, if your kid is that disrespectful, why are you even reproducing? Do whatever you will. I mean, that's your business. But for them to be disrespectful outside your household, that's like when it's a problem. Inside your household, you let your kid talk to you however you want. That's your business. But then the thing that bothered me the most out of this whole situation, there was well, they don't know about the second one, but there was one murder, but 2 bodies found within the last 2 days of each other, and you have your children at that park where the murders happen, and you're not at the park with them? So then that bothered me, because it's like, okay, we don't know who's killing these people, if it's even related. Why in the world are you letting your kids go to a park out and about by themselves when 2 people were murdered? Anyway, I just had to get that off my chest. But that's what happened with our day. Hope your day was better.